On the day the news leaked, Los Angeles fell silent. Not the usual silence of a late night on Sunset Boulevard, but a heavy silence. The kind that shakes the world. Netflix buys Warner Brothers. 3 words that would change everything. The headline didn't feel real. The studio that created Casablanca, The Matrix, Harry Potter, Batman, Looney Tunes, The Exorcist, now belonged to a company that, in just 15 years, had gone from a DVD by-mail service to a global giant. Critics, analysts, directors, executives, and fans all knew. This wasn't just another business deal. It was the beginning of the biggest transformation in cinema since the invention of sound. Because if Hollywood had always been a battleground, never before had one single company held so much power, so much catalog, so much audience, so much reach, and above all, so much influence over human behavior. The world was minutes away from discovering what happens when tradition meets technology and loses. The birthplace of cinema meets the future. To understand the scale of this merger, you have to go back in time. Long before Netflix existed, Warner Brothers was one of the pillars of the American film industry. Founded in 1923, it grew through the strength of its studios, its star system, its franchises, its filmmakers. Warner is synonymous with The Dark Knight, Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, Friends, The Matrix, Game of Thrones. Netflix was the opposite. A DVD subscription website that mailed discs to your house. Nothing glamorous, nothing Hollywood. But while Hollywood looked backward, Netflix looked forward. While studios fought for box office numbers, Netflix fought for attention. In the 2010s, the company became the largest streaming service in the world. It changed media consumption, reshaped habits, reinvented business models, and forced competitors to scramble. By 2020, Netflix already had more cultural impact than many century-old studios. The merger, therefore, was historic. The glorious past of cinema met the inevitable future of entertainment. Why Netflix made the biggest acquisition of the century. By buying Warner Bros., Netflix gained 3 unprecedented superpowers. 1. The largest entertainment catalog in history. 2 of the biggest libraries on Earth became one. Movies, series, franchises, entire universes, all under one roof. No other service could compete in quantity, quality, or variety. 2. Control over global pop culture. Marvel belongs to Disney, but DC Comics belongs to Warner. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Joker, Flash, Justice League. And now they belonged to Netflix. The company also gained control over HBO Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, Looney Tunes, New Line Cinema, WB Games, Warner Animation, Warner Television. This was more than a purchase. It was the full absorption of a century-old tradition. 3. The power to decide the future of cinema alone. By merging streaming plus cinema plus television plus gaming, Netflix created the first total super studio. For the first time, a single company could produce, distribute, exhibit, analyze data, sell merchandise, create interconnected universes, control every step of the consumer experience. Nothing like this had ever existed. Hollywood realized it was facing something similar to what Disney did with Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm, but on an even larger scale. The chaos. In Hollywood, competitors react. The purchase didn't just shock fans, it affected governments, economies, and rival giants. Disney panicked. Disney had always been the king of entertainment, but for the first time, it faced a competitor with more content, more data, and more digital reach. Budgets were cut, projects restructured, franchises reorganized. Amazon launched aggressive moves. Amazon, already investing billions in streaming and cinema, realized it needed to accelerate. Analysts believe this merger pushed Amazon and MGM to speed up their own expansions. Paramount and Universal were seen as vulnerable. Executives predicted that, caught between giant wars, smaller studios would be forced to merge or disappear. The Netflix-Warner merger created a global domino effect, a total industry reshuffle. How Netflix began to control entire universes. By taking over the Warner catalog, Netflix inherited its biggest challenges and opportunities. 1. Reinventing DC Comics. For years, DC had struggled with failures, cancellations, and lack of direction. Netflix saw a gold mine. With precise audience behavior data, they mapped out bolder films, solid timelines, smart crossovers, connected series, a universe planned by algorithms plus creatives together. The idea was simple: create the next generation Marvel. 2. Reviving old franchises. Franchises such as The Matrix, Harry Potter, Mad Max, Looney Tunes, The Conjuring, The Hobbit would receive new seasons, spin-offs, and expanded universes. Not out of nostalgia, but because Netflix knew exactly which audiences still wanted those stories. 3. The end of the barrier between cinema and streaming. Netflix had long been criticized for avoiding traditional theatrical releases. With Warner, that changed. Cinemas began screening Netflix productions with the same force and glamour as major studios. The audience could feel Hollywood changing hands. The future of cinema under a data empire. Netflix's biggest advantage wasn't money. It was information. The company knows when viewers pause, when they skip, when they quit, when they rewatch, which scenes hold attention, which actors increase engagement, which genres rise in each country. With the merger, this data began shaping scripts, casting, marketing campaigns, visual aesthetics, narrative pacing. Cinema became more precise, more tested, more tailored. But concerns grew. Was cinema becoming math? Was human creativity being replaced by algorithms? The conversation was unavoidable. The fear: when power becomes too big. Behind the glitter, there were shadows. Critics warned, no company should control this many stories. Antitrust regulators investigated. Politicians debated limits. Directors feared losing artistic freedom. Actors feared restrictive contracts. Some said cinema was becoming a monopoly. Others said it was simply technological evolution. But everyone agreed on one thing: the world would never be the same. The global renaissance of entertainment. Despite criticism, the merger created positive effects. 1. International productions exploded. Netflix always invested globally. With Warner, that tripled. Korean, Brazilian, Indian, Mexican, and Spanish productions now shared space with U.S. blockbusters. Cinema was no longer limited to Hollywood. 2. Independent artists gained more space. Ironically, the merger opened doors. Netflix needed variety of voices, styles, cultures, and narratives. 3. The audience gained more than it lost. With more money, more technology, and more distribution, massive projects became possible at an unprecedented scale. It was like fast-forwarding 10 years of evolution in a matter of months. The new Hollywood. Future predictions. Experts drafted 3 possible futures. Future 1, the absolute empire. Netflix dominates, buys more studios, monopolizes streaming, theaters, and TV. Future 2, the war of titans. Disney, Amazon, and Apple strike back. Entertainment becomes a battlefield. Future 3, the hybrid cinema era. Platforms coexist. AI creates drafts, humans refine. Films are designed for cinema, streaming, VR, holograms. The Netflix-Warner merger becomes the spark that ignited this future. What the merger meant for people. More than corporations, Hollywood has always been about people. This merger changed daily life for writers, directors, actors, crew members, theater owners, independent filmmakers, fans worldwide. Some gained opportunities, others lost ground. Everyone experienced a revolution. Cinema stopped being predictable. It became constant experimentation. The conclusion: between tradition and the future. When Netflix bought Warner Bros., it wasn't about money. It was about cultural power. It was about who controls the stories that shape identities, beliefs, and societies. The merger created new worlds, new conflicts, new possibilities, new threats. But above all, it showed that cinema no longer belongs only to the past. It belongs to those brave enough to reinvent it. And in the end, maybe this is the deepest truth. Cinema didn't die. It changed hands. And now it's being written by a new generation, connected, global, fragmented, but passionate. The Netflix Warner era is not the end of Hollywood. It is the beginning of the next chapter.